Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and this video marks the return of probably the greatest ELC AMX player in the world, 슨두부찌개. 슨두부찌개 plays on the Korean server and he has simply mastered this tier 5 French light tank, the ELC AMX. I last posted a video of 슨두부찌개 back in January. And since then, let's just say he has been relentless with his practice on the ELC AMX, as I will highlight later on. And also, we have pictures of his crew skills. The last time 슨두부찌개 was featured on this channel, he had played 11,000 games in his ELC AMX. That's right, he has played more games in this tank than it's likely that the vast majority of you have played in the entire your entire career of World of Tanks. Now he is in as bad of a matchmaking as you can possibly get in ELC AMX. This tank can reach battle tier 8, meaning that, well, I can meet tier 8 tanks. And the majority of the tanks on the enemy team are tier 8, with a splattering of artillery and some quite nasty light tanks on the enemy team, including those ELC AMXs. Now Sundu has set himself up here. He wants to apply some pressure on the enemy team. He's hoping that they're going to try and make their way around this corner, and that will allow him to have some very tasty side shots. Now, the ELC AMX is special because it gets a very meaty gun for a low-tier light tank. It's so light, it's so low profile, and it can still mount a 90mm gun. So that means that you're able to do kind of tier 8 medium tank damage on your tier 5 light tank. Now the rate of fire on this gun certainly isn't the best. And 슨두부찌개 is doing some good work here with the bush. When he goes forwards, he can see through it, spot his enemies, and he can take a nice shot at them. Then he pulls back until he stealths again, as we see now. And his enemies, as soon as he then becomes invisible to them again, blind fire the bush. Just like that. But that's not going to confuse 슨두부찌개. He knows exactly what he needs to do. Wait until they fire that blind shot, so predictable are his opponents, and then go back in and scout out for another hit. He is taking off pretty much 25% of the hit points of that Panzer with every shot, and that vehicle is 2 tiers higher than him. Now a T-34 tries to push round the corner, and he's getting blind fired even though he's not spotted in the bush. He takes a swing at the T-34, but unfortunately it goes over the tank, and I'm not sure if he actually damaged his own T-34 on his team there. That's unfortunate. The enemy are now trying to pile round. He puts a shot into the Panzer and then lines up to try and finish off the ELC AMX. But luckily, the T-34 on his team rams him to death. Now Sundu's going to try and take a shot at this 112 in the side of the turret. He manages it. He pulls back, knowing that he'll be spotted. And I think he decides that he needs to get out of here. If these enemies manage to flank round and push through, they're going to be able to take him out. And let's not forget that a tank like a T-34 or a 112 is a 50-50 chance at killing the ELC AMX with a single shot. So that was a really brave move, but also the right move for 슨두부찌개 to take. That means that he can now support his allies from above. Now we see him loading some APCR ammunition. Now the regular AP rounds on this tank have got a very nice 170mm of penetration. But the APCR rounds, which you will need to engage these tier 8 heavies, which are 3 tiers higher than his light tank, have 248. And that means that they go through the side like butter, and even through the front of these heavily armored tanks, as we saw on the Tiger 2 there. And this Tiger is working the ridge, and you're seeing 슨두부찌개 use his auto-aim to know when he needs to go up to be able to fire, but he decides, well, he'd rather be more accurate and pinpoint the shot into the side of the Tiger there. But this is a tactic that you'll see him use quite a lot. where he auto-aims, goes up until he knows that he has enough gun depression to take a snapshot at the Tiger, and then he pulls back. He has done 2,000 damage so far, which would be a remarkable amount of damage to have done in this game alone. But his team is still down by 3 tanks. That Panther 88 is flanking him. He uses auto-aim, waits for it, accurate, puts a shot in, and now he reloads a high explosive shell. And that's because there's a Rheinmetall Borsig Waffenträger below him with terrible armor. And even the low penetration on the HE rounds on this tank, with 45mm of penetration, can go through the armor. Only 45mm of penetration. But that HE shell does 367 damage. And the follow-up does 244 damage. And that's because these shells do on average 320. That's over 50% more than your AP rounds. Fantastic use of his high explosive rounds there. Unfortunately, the artillery on the enemy team do manage to find him. But he keeps his Super Pershing alive. He goes forwards, spots the Tiger, takes a shot at the Tiger, and he rolls super high there. 286 damage with his AP round, securing his 4th kill on tanks which are 2 to 3 tiers higher than him. And he has also done 2,880 damage. Simply remarkable. Now he's in a much more favorable situation, where he's 3 versus 4. And 3 of the enemies are artillery. What is his plan here? The Jagdtiger was last spotted in base. It doesn't have any kills. It's quite likely the Jagdtiger might still be camping there. I'd like to highlight one thing for you guys. If you're wondering what is a PC box Ferdinand or what is a PC box ELC AMX, well, I did a bit of digging around on Google, and it looks like in Korea they are still doing what you call gaming cafes. Is very popular in the culture over there, unlike in a lot of the Western countries. As 슨두부찌개 finishes off the tier 6 British artillery piece on the enemy team, the FB304. So as I was saying, sorry, I got a bit distracted there, that basically gaming cafes are still very popular, and what you can do in Korea is go in and rent tanks in World of Tanks. And so that means that your tank is anointed by the, you know, the PC, or annotated by the PC dash, and then your tank number. So 슨두부찌개 has secured his 5th kill, and he's found out where the Jagdtiger 88 is. He's making his way towards him. He hasn't been spotted yet. Still hasn't been spotted. What remarkable camo rating on this vehicle. He's just got spotted now, and that's allowed him to get close enough to the Jagdtiger to start to harass him. He can't get rammed by the Jagdtiger. This vehicle weighs less than 10 tons. If the Jagdtiger even shunts him a little bit, he might take his tracks off or do maybe 50 damage or so. The artillery on his team takes a massive risk there and nearly takes out 슨두부찌개. But luckily, he has surrounded the Jagdtiger. All he has to do now is avoid the artillery and put some pressure up. The S-51 on his team is trying to avoid the enemy artillery, as the enemy artillery narrowly missed 슨두부찌개. Now the Super Pershing on his team is going hunting, and that might take the pressure off. While 슨두부찌개 finishes off the Jagdtiger 88, but it doesn't look like it is, as the M44 still is shooting at the ELC AMX. Now the Super Pershing gets dealt with, and it actually looks like the GW Tiger shot at 슨두부찌개 there, because the M44 finishes off the Super Pershing. So he manages to take out the entirety of that Jagdtiger there, 1,300 damage, while avoiding multiple shots from the enemy artillery. He's now up to 4,200 damage. And so begins a 1 versus 2 against some serious artillery pieces. Now the ELC AMX has been reduced to 209 hit points. That means that even a splash will prove fatal. 슨두부찌개 prefers to use binoculars in his tank. I do the same in the ELC AMX. Its base view range isn't very good, and I feel like when you need to use the spotting in this tank, you can afford to stay stationary for a while to get that excellent view range. Also remember that the aim time in this tank is exceedingly long. If you want to be accurate at long ranges, you're going to have to stay still until your binoculars are activated anyway. That's not to say that 슨두부찌개 is not also using coated optics on this tank, which he could be. But considering how much the reactive view, well, spotting distance circle is when he's not stationary with the binoculars, it doesn't look like he does. He's probably using a rammer, maybe a gun-laying drive. Manages to spot the GW Panther, and he reloads an HE shell. He's going to have an ambush shot here. The GW Panther has got 360 hit points. Will he be able to one-shot him with his 320 ammunition? Oh, it rolls only slightly above average, leaving the GW Panther on 10% of his health. He uses the rock for cover, and he re-stealths. Now he goes into the bush. The GW won't be able to spot him. Auto aims at the GW. Makes sure he's not spotted and goes forward and finishes him off. Where is that dastardly M44 gone? Oh my word, he's right there. He whiffs his shell over the top of 슨두부찌개's tank, and from now this must have been a very, very satisfying feeling to finish off the M44, secure his 8th kill of the game. And how much damage will he go up to? It doesn't look like it's going to be quite 5,000. 4,844 damage. 8 kills in the worst possible matchmaking. What an absolute stunner of a game here for 슨두부찌개 in his favorite tank. You made no mistakes. You carried a game that I am pretty sure that 99.99% of players, possibly even more, could ever think of doing in their ELC AMX. We can all learn a lot from 슨두부찌개's initial position that he took. This seems to be very strong for mediums, lights, and possibly even some tank destroyers. He managed to create this absolute graveyard with some fantastic bush mechanics from this position up here, which was a lovely move to fall back into. If he hadn't fallen back into this position from there, then he would have simply just got flanked and one-shot by the very high-tier tanks that would have pushed around the corner. From here, he was able to control the engagement, use the low-profile nature of the ELC AMX to sneak some shots in, avoid the artillery, and provide a supporting role to finish off even Rheinmetall Borsig Waffenträgers from coming around the corner. After that, we saw him play a harassing role, hunting down the FE-304, going solo against a Jagdtiger 88, even with his own artillery trying to take him out, and then finishing off the game in style and also very, very cleanly against the 2 artillery. Just what an absolute amazing game. Thank you so, so much for sending me this replay again. And let's just take a look at the post-game stats, as well as how many games 슨두부찌개 has played since he was featured in January, and also, as a lot of you have been requesting, his ELC AMX crew. So 슨두부찌개 managed to pick up his Radley Walters medal here for destroying 8 enemy tanks, a Pascucci's medal for destroying 3 enemy artillery, a high caliber medal, which in this matchmaking is simply remarkable. He defended the base, getting over 70% of base cap defense points, an Orlix medal for killing 3 or more enemy vehicles, which are 2 tiers higher than his tank. As we mentioned, this was a 4,844 damage and 2,608 base experience. This is the highest ever base experience in an ELC AMX game that I've been able to find on any replay, as well as being in the top 10 experiences of all time irrelevant of the tank on the QuickyBaby Replays website. Now for the part you have all been waiting for, let's take a look at 슨두부찌개's crew skills. He has got 8 crew skills on his commander, as well as, of course, his driver. On January the 6th, 슨두부찌개 had played 11,214 games in his ELC AMX. Now he has played 14,103. That means that for the last half a year, 슨두부찌개 has played 19 ELC AMX games every day. That is some serious dedication to, I guess, one of the funnest light tanks in the game. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this replay. If you did, please consider giving this video a like down below. And if you want to see 슨두부찌개's last masterpiece, then simply click up here and you can go through to that replay from January that we were talking about. And let me know in the comments down below what you think about the ELC AMX. In patch 9.7, it was just made HD from the standard definition model. Has this changed the tank at all in its playstyle? Obviously its appearance has changed, but has this affected the mechanics of the game, of the way the ELC armor works? And maybe you are a keen ELC AMX driver. What are your favorite things to do in this vehicle? I think this replay could only have been better if 슨두부찌개 had managed to get alongside a tank which wouldn't have had the gun depression to shoot him. It kind of could have happened against the Jagdtiger, I guess, but then again, all you have to do is get to the side or the rear of a Jagdtiger. You don't need to try and get alongside them where they can't aim down. That's the Mega Troll. Why you should definitely click up here and go through to that replay. But anyway, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.